crack open the case and pull out the movie. That's what we do here at The Last Video Store, a show about the films you love. My name is Alexi Toliopoulos. I'm the clerk here, manning the desk of The Last Video Store, and each week I'm joined by an interesting person to talk about their favorite films in the style of an old school video store rental combo. And joining me on the show this week is David Novak, the frontman for the rock and roll group. I always say rock and roll like an English fella. Polish Club. They're fucking cool, man. I really dig Polish Club. They got a new album coming out called Heavyweight Heart. Their new singles are Manila, which freaking slaps, dude. Heavyweight, which gives me some feelings. And one that I'm yet to hear because we're recording this before it comes out, How Dare You Fall Love in This City, which I think already paints quite a powerful picture. But Novak rocks. We have such a good chat talking about a new release film that he loves, that I also love and have been freaking dying to talk about. Two old school classics, the weeklies. In fact, we've got a weekly and we've got a bleaky on this episode. So get ready to go crazy. And then I'm going to provide him with a bespoke customized recommendation based on his taste. So let us get into it with Novak from Polish Club. Novak, thank you for joining me inside The Last Video Store.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. I love movies so much.
Wow, I'm feeling that is true, honest, and earnest right now. We have a film lover amongst us.
Kind of. I mean, I don't know. I always I get imposter syndrome anytime I bring up any films to anyone because everyone always has more trivia to it than I do.
Oh, okay.
I'm not really good at like paying attention to films.
We're going to throw you out of this store right now within the first 1 minute. You come in saying you love film and then you say, I don't know if that's true.
I like the experience of watching a film.
Okay.
I shouldn't be saying this on a film podcast. I'm realizing that in real time.
Yeah.
But I'm not necessarily good at remembering the film post watching it.
Well, let me tell you this. That's my job to remember the films.
Okay, great. So
I'm an archivist. I'm a chronicler. I remember the films.
Incredible. If you could remind me of like all of the beats.
We'll go through
all like the whole movie.
Yeah, every movie. Any movie you tell me right now, we'll go through it beat by beat, dude. I'll do my best at least. I'll do my absolute darndest to go beat by beat for film for you.
I trust you.
Thank you. That's all I want, is to be trusted by the people that wander into this store.
I trust you to do this really, really specific thing once.
Yeah.
I don't like universal trust.
Okay.
I just fucking met you. So like we'll start level 1 trust.
Level 1 trust.
You have one job.
Okay, one job. And by the end, pray that I make to level 2 trust.
And go.
Okay, well, tell me a movie. Let's go beat.
I get to choose. I get to choose.
Yeah. God, I
they
hope it's what
clone
I'm saying.
Tyrone.
Well, maybe we'll save that then.
Why?
Because we'll talk a little bit about your choices when we get there.
Oh, right. What did you say? You said, tell me your movie.
Well, tell me a movie if you want me to go beat by beat. But we'll go beat by beat when we get to their clone Tyrone then.
No, we don't have to. You're in charge.
Okay,
apparently.
Well, not anymore. I think you've actually taken control of the show right now. I've been mutinied right now. I've been freaking mutinied within 3 seconds.
I don't actually know where I am right now.
Well, you were in the Last Video Store, and I'm going to tell you this. I'm going to ask you this.
Oh, shit.
When was the last time you were in the video store?
I have no idea. I have one like really, really vivid memory of being in a Blockbuster, like when I was just old enough to drive and own my own car.
Wow.
And
18, 16, 17?
Yeah, like maybe 19, 18,
Wow, okay.
like around then, Red Peas. And I dropped some tapes off last minute, or they would have been DVDs or something. And I like ran back to the car because I think it was in an illegal spot.
Oh,
and
wow.
I just did like you know when you're young and you just got your license and you want to like pull all the moves, like you're turning the steering wheel with one hand. I was doing that. I was like reversing and bam, I knocked over this guy's motorcycle.
Oh,
and like
no.
really fucked it up. And this has nothing to do with films. But just
we're
imagine
in the moment. We're taken
I'm painting
back.
a picture, and you imagine a giant blockbuster in the background. Anyways, turns out he was a really close friend of a friend of mine, and I like wasn't going to do anything about it. I was going to drive away because I was like a pretty bad
You're
person
those red
back then, I
peas.
guess.
Come on.
I just freaked out, and I didn't think there was much damage. There was.
Oh, no.
But my friend saw it and told his friend, didn't know it was me. And then he told me a week later, he was like, hey, some guy hit this guy's book. Anyway, I paid for it.
Holy shit. And you're in there picking movies with this stress coursing through your brain?
It was at least one movie, and I reckon it probably would have been like 2 video games. That's how I rolled.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
Do you remember what the movie was?
No idea.
New release, we thinking?
I feel like with video stores, that was a bit more of a democracy. Like I didn't do it for me necessarily. It was like a family pick or a pick you think you would watch with your mates. So like my agency was less powerful than with a video game where I'm like, I just want to play this for the weekend. So it was probably something for the whole family to watch.
Wow, okay, so you're caring. You're a caregiver.
Having said that, I do remember renting Apocalypse Now, having not seen it and not really knowing what it was, and Taxi Driver, and watching that with my father and a friend of mine in from overseas. And we were like, I don't know, 12, 14, like way too young. And it was like a real spicy, awkward watch. So we didn't always get the family-friendly ones.
But that's it. You still made it a family experience. And that's what matters.
Yeah. I mean, my parents are cool. They don't care. We've all seen a cop.
Yeah, exactly. And I would say I had not dissimilar experiences. Taxi Driver was a movie I saw with my mum as well, where it was just like, she was introducing me to film. She goes, you're going to love Harvey Keitel. Let's go into this.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Is your mom from New York?
Oh, no. But
she
loves the Harvey Keitel, though. She loves him. And so we went on a Harvey Keitel marathon. We go Taxi Driver. Then we go to freaking Bad Lieutenant. And I saw Bad Lieutenant with my mum when I was like 12 years old. And it's like one of those more messed up experiences of my life.
Do you remember the film, or do you remember the look on your mum's face?
What was her choice? I think she looked at me with glee.
Because like in those moments, I don't actually remember watching Taxi Driver. I don't remember the film. This is what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I don't remember the movie. I remember the experience.
The experience
it's holistic,
of watching
you know,
it.
it's like
That's it.
I'm there in the moment. I'm not there watching the film. I'm there experiencing people watching the film.
Okay, I love that. You're an empath.
I'm a pervert.
Okay, you're a pervert and an empath. What a great combination.
I'm watching you, watching me, watch the movie.
Can I ask you as well, you're a musician. Is there any film music that you're really drawn to or take inspiration from, or anything like in that kind of film sound meets vision space?
Here we go.
Oh, here we go.
Every single song I've ever written has been me trying to write a Bond theme.
No way. Are you serious?
I'm exaggerating.
But I know exactly what you mean, yeah.
I've always tried to do that. Like it's not something I can really articulate. There's like little touchstones to it in a musical sense that you could talk about, like the riff and the chord progressions, but it's like a sexy mood, right?
Can I ask with that, because there's something striking me the way you say like you want it to be like a Bond song, or that's the inspiration, or that's a feeling. When I hear Bond and music, it's almost like a synesthesia type thing, because it's all that of when you hear the Bond themes and when you see them on screen as they're playing, it's that really evocative, highly stylized, like the women in bikinis and smokes and guns and stuff. Is that kind of what you mean? Like that's the visual element to it?
It's that, and it's like kind of knowingly out of vogue and knowingly of a time that I didn't experience. There's something about trying to capture a culture and a moment in time that has nothing to do with you, right? Like I can never really empathize with those really dated old Bond movies, right? I enjoy watching them, but like I didn't live that era.
No, I would hope not.
But trying to recapture Goldfinger is like the funnest challenge I can think of. And you can't do it because I wasn't...
You're not Shirley Bassey.
Whoa. Shit, you're right. I'm not. I mean, no one is. And like,
one person is. There's also, only one person that is.
But you didn't... I also didn't live at that point, you know? And there's something like romantic about trying to capture that romance of it.
And reinterpreting it as well.
Yeah, totally. And like, I feel like that's something that's harder to do in music than it is in film, maybe. Because, like, I mean, we'll get onto it, like, with one of my picks. If you're trying to, you know, lean on, like, blaxploitation a little bit, I feel like that's kind of easier to nail in film if you do it correctly than in music, where people are a bit more dismissive and they'll be like, well, that's just that. That's just Marvin Gaye, or that's just, you know, you're just ripping off X.
There's less of that. I mean, to get into the nitty gritty of that almost is, especially with that Marvin Gaye example, like they're litigious. He's you know, he's a state of litigious. Like they'll sue freaking Pharrell. They'll sue people for sound alikes.
For the record, it's not him. He's long gone.
Of course, rest in peace.
It's his shitty family.
Yeah. Well, you know, his family also were the ones that killed him. His dad shot him to death.
It's a whole thing.
Yeah.
But I think when it comes down to it, there's less moving parts in a song, and there's so much that goes into film and making film. I've never really experienced it firsthand, but like I have friends who've done like audio stuff on film, and I've kind of heard about the process, and it makes me go, at least, why the fuck would anyone do that? Especially as like an actor who's completely out of control, has no control of any of it, and to go 2 years into the future and just hope it's a good thing. There's so much that can go wrong with it.
Yeah.
You write a song, it's the song. The song's not really going to change. Like nothing's going to go disastrously wrong in the studio most times, 99 times out of 100.
Exactly.
But like with a film, I'm like, why is anyone here doing this? You're not going to find any kind of accomplishment in it for like years, probably, right? I mean, am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong. But if I have to answer the question of like why people do it, because movies are beautiful. They are singular icons out there. They're artistic. They're powerful. They move you. They're empathy machines that we step into to feel the experiences from other realms and other locations and worlds.
I can take that sentence and take the top of it and replace movies with music, and it's a lot shorter of a process.
Yeah.
Write a song in 2
And you don't
seconds.
have to go to like a big room that's dark to kind of experience it.
Like I love film. Nothing can do to me what film has done to me, good and bad.
Okay, wow.
But I don't know. It just seems like it's so out of control. I think maybe as an artist,
Oh my God, I felt the atmosphere in the room change just then.
I just shot myself.
Wow.
As an artist, I like to feel in control of the thing I'm making. And there's so many artistic minds in film that are completely like divorced from any sense of control and agency. Which I guess it's a beautiful thing, right? Because then it means you need like a team to work together, and you need the
It's
whole
all
machine.
collaboration, yeah.
I feel like the way a lot of musicians operate, there's very little collaboration. But that's definitely reflecting on my experience more so than music at large.
It's official. Novak's a control freak. We heard it.
No, I'm just lazy and I hate working with people. It's like the complete opposite of a control freak. It's
Yeah.
like, I don't want to do it. Period.
Okay, well, it's time for us to do it. Let's collaborate. We're going to be going through your favorite movies right now, or a list of movies that you love. It doesn't have to be your favorite films. We're going to send you out to the store. You're going to pick up one new release film, any film from the last few years, 2 weekly titles, and then I'm going to provide you with an extra film, a staff pick recommendation from me unto you based on your taste.
Thank you in advance.
Well, you're welcome for even further in advance.
New release.
All right, so you've got a wonderful selection of films here. May I compliment you on your taste already?
You may.
And you may accept that compliment.
I do.
Okay, let's get into your new release film. This is a film I've actually been freaking dying to talk about on any form or any show. This is a film that came out famously during the writer's strike. During the actor's strike, there was almost zero promotion around this film. I felt like a lunatic falling in love with it.
Yeah.
But you have got the directorial debut of Jewel Taylor. They cloned Tyrone.
Sci-fi.
What a film.
What a film. I adore this movie.
I was going to ask you, do you feel like, but you've kind of answered it already because I forgot about the writer's strike thing.
I will never forget about it.
I was going to come in and say, do you feel like this movie just completely released to no fanfare and no attention whatsoever? Then I went on Reddit.
You go on Reddit.
And, well, step one, never go on Reddit. But step two, if you do, but you'll hear opinions that kind of are divorced from reality. Right?
Oh, absolutely.
So, like,
but it's a great way to explore other dimensions going on to Reddit.
Yeah, the fucking 35-year-old white dude dimension, our dimension.
Our dimension, dude.
But they were like, oh, you know, everyone's frothing over They Clone Tyrone. Everyone says, and I'm like,
Who's frothing?
I haven't heard a single person in real life mention the movie.
I had like no conversations about it. I'm putting it out there going, guys, I saw a great movie. Please watch They Clone Tyrone. No one's telling me they saw They Clone Tyrone. This is the first time I've talked about They Clone Tyrone with someone.
What do you give it out of 10? I want your opinion.
Out of 10? Oh, be really honest with you. I can tell you what I gave out of 10. I gave it a 9 out of 10.
Oof, okay.
Yeah, I was a 9 out of 10 on this movie.
The thing about the film is it's not like that good.
Wow.
No.
Wow.
As in.
I'm gonna have to defend They Clone Tyrone to you right now.
I'm putting on the imaginary like dickhead.
The Reddit hat is on.
Like film student bullshit. This film is good because X, Y, and Z. I like the film because it's just a movie. It's like, hey guys, here's a movie about like race and like conspiracy and distrust of the government, but like it's really fun and it's really funny. It doesn't take itself seriously. Like it's really not that big a deal. None of this stuff. We're not going to make much of a big deal about any of it, but we're going to do it well.
The social commentary is present, but it is all about the genre pastiche of it all.
Entertainment. That's what it's about. And I like most films I see now, most like anything, TV shows, a lot of music, a lot of video games, they're so preoccupied with the message, right? They're preoccupied
didactic.
with saying something. And in doing so, they've forgotten to tell a story that makes me feel anything and like use excitement to get me invested in a story. And I feel like this movie kind of uses charisma and the power of the actors to just entertain first and foremost, and everything else, it's not an afterthought. It's just used to support the idea of entertainment rather than take itself too seriously, because like it's a pretty out there movie.
It's a pretty whack movie, and I love the way you're putting it because charisma is such a great word to use around this film, and the kind of pastiche that it's playing with, it's these kind of disparate influences of like blaxploitation. It looks perfectly in that blaxploitation sense because it's got this great film grain on it. So much grain, this artificial film grain that I just found so enjoyable. I think it works lovely to kind of enhance that aesthetic. Then it kind of finds this harmonious balance with, like, no shit, the other thing I would say is a major influence is fucking Scooby-Doo.
100%.
Like, it's a full-on Scooby-Doo mystery.
It's the gang.
It's the full-on gang.
Yeah.
And it finds this harmonious groove between all of those things to become something quite fresh. And I think the best word that you use, I'm going to go back to, is charisma, because you have this kind of like, what do you call it? An ensemble of 3 actors in it.
Tell them the cast.
John Boyega,
Ooh.
Jamie Foxx,
Yes.
and Tyrone Paris.
Love it.
And the 3 of them together, I could come back to that trio
100%.
every single week in a procedural style show.
If we mild spoiler for They Clone Tyrone, but the end of the film, am I allowed to do this or like?
Let's say mild. We'll say mild.
At the end of the film, it's kind of this.
We've got one chili pepper just displayed here right now.
I will just plug your ears for 10 seconds. They set up they imply that they're going to go on for another adventure.
There could be another adventure.
And I'm like hook it to my veins, make this go on forever.
Absolutely. I want it week to week, brother. Week to week.
It's one of those films where I could watch the 3 leads just talk shit at each other for hours, literal hours. It's one of those 2-hour films where I'm not going, why is every movie 2 hours now?
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah.
It's
it just
amazing.
zips by because it's got this, like you said, the plot is mean. Like, it's just mean, it's clean. You've got this great aesthetic and vibe and feeling all around it, but it's quite to the point and it's so infested with humor, and a lot of that humor comes out through that aesthetic, through that plot, because basically it's just like a nefarious government conspiracy type thing. There's freaking clones involved, there's sci-fi professors involved, Kiefer Sutherland's jumping around doing crazy shit in this.
But it's also touching on things that I think a lot of other films have tried to do and for me failed. I mean, I'm going to bring one up that most people will disagree with in that I think it's not very good.
Wow.
Get Out.
Whoa, okay, I will have to disagree with you.
That's
I think
fine.
it's very good.
That's fine. I think it's a well-made movie. I just don't like it very much because for me, I was constantly just picturing Jordan Peele behind me going, "Do you get it, man? Wake up, sheeple. Do you fucking get it?" Whereas like in this film, I'm not even considering that message. I'm just taking it in. And afterwards, I'm like, that was pretty effective. It dealt with relatively dark stuff. I mean, the three archetype main characters, there's the pimp, the drug dealer, and the sex worker, which is like not fun stuff to be dealing with. There's like death and loss and trauma and the layer of race on top of all of that encompasses it all. And I think to deal with it in a way that has a little bit of levity is something that me, in the stage of my life where I'm at, where I'm stressed enough in my own life, it's a nice way to take in a serious message, but not be hit over the head by Jordan Peele going, "Fucking, do you get it, man?"
Yeah, well, I'm going to say this on that because I think what you're getting to is the thing that I care about most when it comes to genre cinema is I think of genre as a tool to communicate. It's a language that audiences are completely fluent in. They may be aware of that or they may not, but it's a great way to speak to an audience. And because this is a film that, yes, it's got social commentary. It's in there. It's lurking in there. But it's not the primary purpose of this film. It's a way to kind of communicate, to hopefully get people to, I guess, think about those things without it being that kind of didactic educational tool.
I think it's also like, I hate to belabor the point of Get Out versus this film, but the thing I'm walking away with in They Cloned Tyrone is that it's kind of leaning on your fellow man to get through the conspiracy or whatever. Like you're dealt cards that are against you from birth, and the whole system's against you. It is a whole big conspiracy.
It's a whole conspiracy.
But if everyone comes together and works together, you can survive and thrive. Which is like me saying that, like we're both smiling because we know it's lame as fuck. Like it's pretty lame.
I'm smiling because I think it's cool.
Well, it's cute.
Yeah.
And cute isn't necessarily cool to a lot of people. But I find it really sweet. And I find that like that heart of it, especially when it's put up against, it's juxtaposed with the hardest motherfuckers that you could put in cinema. Like John Boyega as this character, he's a scary dude.
Yeah.
And like all of the people he's working against, the rival drug dealer, like they're scary dudes working in a scary industry. But seeing them all, again, spoiler alert, sorry, but it's mild. It's mild.
It's a mild spoiler.
Seeing everyone come together and kind of overcome a greater enemy, I find it really effective. And I think, to your point, that only really works when you use it in a genre sense like this. Like, it's an effective use of a cliche. And it's also a cliche that I didn't really get, and I don't really get in films like Get Out, where it's like you're all just fucked, and you have to go it alone and do it yourself, and like take the risk. Whereas here, it's like it's fine if we all just like get on the same page. Everything is fine.
I guess it's the kind of different mix of genres between those films. Because it's like Get Out, you got the horror, so it's a kind of feel bad time often. This is kind of like that conspiracy theory, but because the comedy that is such a big part of the mix, like such a big part of the recipe, that it does have that kind of uplifting quality to the comedy. And I think, I gotta say, we're kind of dancing around that. Jamie Foxx is one of the most talented men in the history of humankind. And this is just one of those great movies where he's given the chance to pop, show his charisma, show his comedic chops as well. And because he's in that supporting role, he has kind of free reign to play with the levels that he gets to muck around with.
And I'm just a sucker for a character that ultimately like is a bit of a coward and like isn't a brave person and is kind of lifted up by working with other people. I think it's a really satisfying arc to watch.
Truly. It's so satisfying, but it's like it comes back to these three lead performances, so charismatic, so enjoyable. I think this is one of those movies I'm so glad you brought in because like we kicked this conversation off with, no one's seen this fucking movie. I just want everyone to see this. It's so enjoyable.
But also, like, I don't think we've fully sold just how sci-fi it is as well. Like, it goes full into sci-fi.
That's where I think that's what is one of the great joys of discovering this film is because it begins like in that kind of like the conspiratorial genre pastiches. Then you go further and you get science fiction answers and it becomes a much more overtly almost in that kind of Black Mirror dystopian type sense. Yeah. It's using a social commentary to evoke those feelings too.
That's a better comparison actually because I have a lot of beef with Black Mirror.
Yes.
Well, beef implies that they know who I am, and we will go back and forth.
They're fighting back with you.
It's my wife's favorite series, and I respect her and I love her so much. She's the best.
That's good.
But
that's
there's so much
foundation of a perfect relationship.
There's so much Black Mirror that I think is just dookie garbage. Again, I come back to the like, do you get it, man?
Yeah.
Technology's gonna kill us all, man.
Yeah, one day it will.
Sure. I mean, it probably
That's what I learned
already
from Black Mirror. I'm like, oh, God, one day my phone's going to really oust me with my great secrets.
But I don't need like 60 minutes of someone just like hammering that home. I'm already in. Like, I agree. It's bad. I don't need to be convinced.
Don't need to be convinced.
Yeah.
No.
And it's just like, just tell me a good, fun story.
Yeah.
And a lot of them just, for me, take it into that, like they try to be a bit too dark, and it's like, "Ooh, you're trapped in this AI world forever," and it's just a bit tacky for me. And I think this is like a feature-length Black Mirror that does hit the ones where there's heart, the ones where there's a bit of hope, and maybe that's like. The more I talk about it, the more I feel like it's a me problem where I'm not willing to invest in things that are overtly negative, overtly hopeless, because I think the world is that already, and I don't need this mirror, this Black Mirror, to be held up to me on my couch while I'm already going, everything is shit, and all of this tech is killing us, sure.
Yeah.
And the government's gonna get me, and I'm sitting there with my tinfoil hat. I need something that's like, yes, but have a little faith.
Have a little faith. I think that's what They Clone Tyrone does. I mean,
100%.
I'm so glad you brought it in. Do you have any other thoughts, or are you happy to move on to your next thing?
I think people should just watch it. If you like fun, quick, fast-paced movies and sci-fi, or like any kind of blaxploitation kind of retro vibes, you're gonna like it.
You're gonna love it.
Weekly.
And speaking of those feelings that you hate of negativity and conspiratorials and the government and all that stuff, we actually have one of the greatest bummers of all time in your list. One of the most upsetting, saddest, bleakest films.
Look at that photo.
Look at that freaking cover. This is the antithesis of everything you just said you railed against. This has got them all in there.
I don't want to do it, man. Like, I don't want to do it. I think this is a bad idea.
We're going to talk about it, though. This is the BBC original telemovie from 1984. This is Threads.
War.
A film about nuclear holocaust, apocalyptic, beyond dystopia. I think it's one of the great bummers. It's like one of the great bleakies.
No. It's the great bummer.
It is.
It will never be taught. It's really hard to articulate because there's maybe 1,000 films about nuclear holocaust and things that cover like the exact same stuff that this film does, but this production is done with such a cold hand and a straight face. There's no famous actors. There's no budget. There's nothing that you would expect in a traditional movie. There's no entertainment. It's just like, here's what here's what is happening. Because it's basically a nuclear holocaust over 120 minutes or so. Set to text and unknown actors and just bluntly saying, this is what happened. This is how many people have died because of this. And it's horrible. It's horrible.
It's horrifying.
It's one of those things that you kind of Google as a teen boy that you're like, what's the most disturbing movies of all? Again, we're on Reddit. We're back.
Yeah, this is a great Reddit flick.
Surprise, surprise. The two boys are back on Reddit.
Yeah.
But it's always like number one. And I think that's how I came across it. Like it was once upon a time on in full on YouTube.
Yeah. I think that's how I would have seen it too on YouTube.
Yeah,
because
like it
years
was really
ago.
hard to source because
Yeah.
it was not necessarily a popular movie. I feel like until it was unearthed again and put on Blu-ray and stuff. So I watched it as one does when you find a free film on YouTube, and like I don't think I've seen it since, and it's like seared into my mind.
It's like the ultimate curio.
Yeah, when I said earlier that I don't remember films. Like, I really didn't remember a lot of They Cloned Tyrone. I kind of had to, like, I read the wiki plot summary again. I'm like, oh, yeah. And you remember it. You fill in the gaps. I could tell you every single thing and, like, every single shot in Threads because it's just so brutal and it's so seemingly real because it's just not glamorized in any way. You know?
Not at all. I mean, that's what this is going for. It's directed by a guy called Mick Jackson, who's probably outside of this. He's best known for The Bodyguard. He directed The Bodyguard, the Kevin
serious?
Costner, Whitney Houston film. He also directed the Steve Martin comedy L.A. Story. But what Threads is, because it kind of plays on something that BBC did quite often, which is these kind of social realist dramas, like these English kitchen sink dramas. They're often called something like Ken Loach would do or Mike Leigh would do. They'd be commissioned by BBC to make these like feature-length films for television.
What was that one in the BBC did a thing? I think it was BBC once upon a time. They did a fake.
Ghost Watch.
Yeah, and
Ghost
people like
Watch.
freaked out because they thought it was real.
Yeah, so that's a different story. It's like a live TV show or in the style of a live TV show, but it's like a factual telling of a ghost, a haunting thing.
But it's kind of that something about British TV and British cinema where they have
They're
this
allowed to be
realism.
playful?
No, but they have
Yeah.
this like realism that is a lot more believable. And I think bringing it back to Threads,
Yeah.
it's not that realistic where they're like
It's
having
not-
a telecast
yeah.
and they break into some live coverage of something. But
it is still taking like those like verite ideas. Like it's going for not just realism, it's presenting our reality.
Yeah,
where it's
matter of fact.
Not fully documentary, but there's documentary and factual elements to it where you're charting like what will happen to a country, a land and its people as a nuclear waste continues on. But then you kind of, what I find really interesting about this film is I love this kind of film where it takes either personal chronicle and juxtaposes it to the macro world of history or something's happening. This kind of has that, but there's not really protagonistic characters in this. You kind of get actual glimpses of people's lives at different points of just before the bomb goes off, after the bomb goes off, a year or so after the bomb goes off. But you're not following their journey. You just kind of are checking in with them at different points.
But I think because of that, there's this. It's so effective to me, and I can't articulate why. You like check in with this couple, and then the next time you check in with them, half of one's face is burned off, and she's clearly gonna die, and the husband's resigned to it. He's not helping the neighbors or someone that's screaming under rubble, and it's just like it's.
I felt depression just waft into my body as you said it. Then I felt the chill, and it was depressing.
But it's like it flips like that.
Yeah.
It cuts to that. And there's no context, and these are these are, as far as you and I know, real people because they're not. There's the American equivalent the day after, I think, with like John Lithgow.
Yeah.
It's not John Lithgow. It's not someone I know that they're cutting to. They're totally like random people.
And they just have those perfect like English character faces.
Yeah.
Like these just real people. They could be on EastEnders or they could live on the East End. It's so real.
It's not London. It's not Piccadilly Circus.
No.
And it's not a familiar place. It's like the middle of Sheffield, which like I'm sure it says in the film it's the fourth most populous city in the UK. But like for a foreign audience, it by choosing that instead of London, it feels a lot more real, and it feels it's a lot easier for me to picture my hometown, wherever that might be, because it's not something that I'm used to seeing on film. Like they're not blowing up Sheffield every other action film.
You're not seeing Will Smith saving Sheffield and stuff. It's like
it's not the Statue of Liberty being cut in half. You know?
It's perfectly analogous, you know, like it's perfectly analogous. And like Ken Loach is the only other auteur that comes to mind because Kes is also set in Sheffield. If you've never seen Kes, beautiful coming of age film.
Haven't seen it.
Great pairing. You should watch Kes first and then destroy yourself immediately after with Threads. And I'm going to say this, I rewatched this recently. In fact, I rewatched it today.
But like,
I rewatched it today. I knew you were picking it.
No.
But I needed to get it back into my memory.
Why?
As I was watching it, I was like, why am I doing this? I'm like, why am I doing this to myself? And can I tell you?
But that's sick. You're sick.
I feel sick.
You need help.
You ruined my day, man. You
ruined your own damn day. I saw it like 20 years ago and I've never seen it since. And I have like PTSD from it.
I'm living in
I
the
need
trauma.
fucking help.
Yeah, well, we're hopefully
like, what's wrong with you watching this movie today?
Can I tell you this one image that really sat with me? Because I'm watching it and there's something that happens where there's a moment where you see the sunlight come back and the clouds open and you see these beautiful like threads of sunlight coming through. And I was like, oh my God, I forgot this has a happy ending. And then the next thing that comes up on screen is like a text thing that says, skies becoming clear. And I'm like, okay, wow. Then the text continues, returning sunlight now heavier with ultraviolet light. Cataracts widespread, higher risk of cancers and leukemia. And I burst out laughing, just going, this movie's fucking relentless. Just as you think, okay, after a year, humanity persists, things return.
Man.
It goes, no, we've got another 100 years of how fucked this shit is. But it's just like, it captures that fear that I think, especially back in 1984, people had this like widespread fear of Cold War, nuclear attacks. People have been living through the threat of like a nuclear war. We've seen the effects of like Hiroshima and how that's lived on. So this is a present thing for a lot of people. And this film does not live in a vacuum. There's a bunch of other films that are happening at this time. You mentioned one of them. Another really great one, I think it is a US telemovie as well. And I've got a copy here. Oh. It's called Testament, which is directed by Lynn Littman. This is a marvelous film.
Get that shit away
I'm going to
from me.
recommend it to you next time you need a bummer. You want to be a bit different. But got a young Kevin Costner before he makes it.
Okay.
So there's something in it as well. But this is a little bit more small town feeling as well.
I came across
a little bit more protagonistic though.
So what happens when you're a teen boy on the early days of the not the early days of the internet, but
Our
earlier
early days,
Internet 2.0 or whatever. You watch Threads in full and then you're like,
what's next? What do you
go,
recommend?
I wonder if there are any other nuclear Holocaust movies in full on YouTube. And I think I watched a few of the hottest clips from Testament on YouTube. But I don't think any film holds a candle to Threads. Like I said, it's
uniquely bleak.
Bleak. And I don't know if it's maybe because I grew up in Europe, and I empathize with the British mentality more than the American, despite how I sound.
Interesting.
I went to an international school, so I sound funny. But I grew up in Belgium, and I did get the BBC on TV in Belgium. And
Belgique.
And there's something about the sensibility of everything made in Britain compared to the States, where there's just a bit more,
yeah.
Where, people are riding the nuke straight down Dr. Strangelove style. Like, I don't... I don't think anything is going to top Threads in terms of bummer. I tell you, there's only a couple of movies that I've seen once and never again, and the other one is Requiem for a Dream. And if you've seen it, you know why. And if you haven't seen it, don't fucking watch it, unless you want a bummer. I think like it's a time of life. Again, it's a stage of life thing. I'm at the stage of life where like those movies. No, thank you.
Not for you anymore.
No bueno. We're done with those, David. Like we're not going back. Like I think it was maybe I'm gonna say 16 to 21 where I'm like, just give me everything. Like give me.
You need to lurk in the darkness.
Rotten.com. You know, like I want to see.
We're going on painolympics.org.
Yes, I want to see the bad stuff. But I've seen it, and I don't think there's any benefit to it. Having said that, there is a benefit to watching Threads and Requiem for a Dream because like it really does. Like genuinely work as a deterrent to any kind of support for nuclear war.
Yeah.
Not that I think
And
most
we haven't
people
had
need
one
it.
since. So
No, it's crazy.
It's worked. Threads did its job.
No, but like if you show it to someone now, it's not just the raw emotion that gets to them. I think there is still a context there that people can still imagine this happening.
Yeah.
It's not like, oh, weren't the 80s crazy? Wasn't the Cold War wild? It's like, well, they still exist, those bombs. In fact, there's like thousands now. So like, it's not something that's like a ridiculous concept to someone in 2024. So it's definitely worth watching once.
I think it's definitely worth watching once. But you have to make sure you're in the right frame of mind. You can't pounce it upon someone. But it's a superb work of art. Like a superb work of art, a superb communication of thoughts, feelings, opinions. It is didactic, but not in a way that's overt.
Well, it's not.
It's just like communicating this is how bad it could be.
It's not really got a message beyond this is what happens in a nuclear war. It doesn't have a political message necessarily, at least not an overt one. Like a lot of those films get banned for telecast, and like the one before this that the BBC tried to make, I think it was the BBC in the 60s, was like The Last Day or something, and it was a TV movie. Again, same thing.
They'd love to do this on TV.
Well, yeah,
I don't know what that is,
but I think it did get a cinematic release.
Yeah, they all do. All these ones get a cinematic release.
But it
as
might
well.
be a case of like BBC aren't really in the business of producing films for the cinema.
Yeah.
They are a TV channel at the end of the day. So it's a lot easier to get funding for that kind of stuff. But also at the same token, it's a lot harder to get BBC to okay something that is like politically overt. So like I think something like this gets over the line with pretty much anyone because it's like nuclear war bad. That's it. One line. That's all you need. Here's death.
I did read a contemporary review where they complained they're not showing us both sides of this. I'm like, what do you mean? What do you mean? Where's the pro of like nuclear stuff?
But that's the point. So maybe they meant not pro and against. Maybe they meant they're not showing the bombs falling on the NATO base in Iran or whatever it was. But that's the point. If you live in Sheffield in 1984 and there's a nuclear war, you're not going to fucking see anything else. Even back then, there's no internet. So you're not going to... You see them reading the newspapers and going, this looks pretty
They're watching
etch.
TV.
This feels pretty bad. And they're all breaking into tears. But you never see it because they don't see it.
Yeah.
You're not going to see anything that they don't see, which I think is why it's effective. It's helplessness. And it's like why it plants that seed of like, why the fuck is this happening to me and in this town where I don't even know what's going on, you know? And I think that's why it's so effective.
Before we move on, let me tell you the equivalent in Testament where they do that.
Yeah, go on.
I think it's
Sponsored by Big Testament.
It's similarly powerful in the way it does it. Is the kids are at home, they're watching Sesame Street. It cuts to static, and then an anchor comes in with like an emergency message, and you're just like, ah, fuck. It's really hits hard. Both good pairing for a horrible weekend, I'd say.
But that's like, so they follow one family? Is that the vibe?
Yeah, pretty much one family in one community. But you get to know who they are a little bit more. It's a little bit more of that juxtaposition of family chronicle against the backdrop of history unfolding. but less in that kind of observed documentary feeling, more in that let's understand the personal feelings of these things happening too.
Which I think is like, I mean, that's classic cinema that is tried and tested. But not to go back to Threads is amazing.
Threads is experimental in
but
that
the way
in that
it works, and I'm going to spoil it because it's like, I mean, it's not
a recommendation to watch.
But it takes you across generations. So it goes beyond the war. It goes
like
into the apocalypse.
Years. Yeah, it goes 100 years by the end, I think.
But it goes into the next generation.
Yeah.
So one of the characters has a daughter, and the mother dies from, I assume, what was radiation sickness. And then the daughter has a kid, and she was sexually assaulted and has a kid. And the film ends. I'm going to spoil it because, I mean, the film ends with the kid having her baby in some barn or something and looking at this malformed child because it's nuclear apocalypse and everything is fucked, and having the most disturbing reaction on her face, freeze frame. You don't even hear her scream. It freezes on her scream, credits, which is the single most chilling image I've ever seen in cinema.
And let me tell you this, that just follows people with a bag of dead rats that they're sharing of like who's gonna eat the rats, who's gonna have the most serving of rats.
What are we doing?
My god, bro! It's so dark. This movie's so upsetting.
And then you got up this morning.
I got up.
I think I'll watch this again. I forgot about the rats.
I got the stink of it on me where I'm like, oh, unfortunately, I can remember specific things from Threads now. Before I could just go, I know it makes me feel bad. Now I know the exact combination of things that make me feel bad about Threads.
How did you forget the ending of this film? It's like seared into my brain.
I was so convinced, like, oh, there's a happy ending when they bring the sunlight back. I was convinced. Oh, boy.
Let's move on.
We're moving on from Threads. It's a recommendation. Chuck on Threads at some point in time if you need to feel
fucking
things.
watch it.
No, we're going to watch Threads. Everyone should watch Threads. It's a recommendation from both of us for everybody to watch Threads. And now we're going complete direction.
Let's have some fun.
This is one of the most fun movies, one of my favorite pictures. I haven't seen this in 20 years, but this is a movie that has stuck with me my whole life. We got Glengarry Glen Ross from the twisted mind of playwright David Mamet and director James Foley.
Drama.
This is one of my absolute favorite films ever. You've got an ensemble of the greats all playing, I guess, what do you call them, salesmen?
Yeah, I mean, who cares? Let's read it out. Al Pacino, Jack Lemmon, Alec Baldwin, Ed Harris, Alan Arkin, Kevin Spacey, Jonathan Pryce. Unbelievable. Like, actually unbelievable.
Actually unbelievable. They all got them together.
This is the worst cover I've ever seen, though. What are they thinking?
They've got those big
brass balls.
They're showing those brass balls
Come
off.
on, man. I guess like the thing about this is like it's a stage play, right? So there's not a lot of glitz and glam. It's basically like here's the office, here's the restaurant, and those are the only two sets essentially.
And
what else are you got to put on here?
You can't put anything else on there apart from, let's show all the actors' heads in like profile shots or something. But I think with this film in particular, I think it's one of the great stage adaptations of a play because it enhances it cinematically just that little extra bit. Not much at all. It's honest to its roots, but it still grounds it in some kind of reality.
Have you seen the play?
I've never seen a play. It's one of my greatest regrets in life. I was in New York when they did a Broadway revival of it with... We will never believe who was playing Shelley Levine, the Jack Lemmon character, is fucking Al Pacino was doing it. And I didn't go see it on Broadway. I saw the Book of Mormon instead. And I've thought about regret for the rest of my life. No, I've never gotten over it.
Hang on. They put Al Pacino, the most gruff character, perhaps, maybe Ed Harris, into the least gruff character, pathetic little Jack Lemmon.
And I wanted to see what he would do with that because I think I've never seen Al Pacino go fully into that pathetic mode.
I don't think it works. I think there's a reason for that.
Actor. I'd love to see what he does.
He's a brilliant actor, but like he's he's got his volume set way too high to be like, oh, and Jack Lemmon.
And I think Bobby Cannavale played the Ricky Roma character, which I'm like, okay, that's great casting for.
That's fine.
Perfect casting for it. When did you first see Glengarry Glen Ross?
I'm going back to my early days of the internet again.
Okay, we're living online.
The golden, I'm going to call it the golden age of the internet where you could steal everything.
Oh my gosh, we got a pirate.
I'm not proud.
Yeah.
I'm not proud. But like, it was very freeing, that stage of life being
The access point where you go,
being
yes.
like 16 to 18 maybe. And
Were you in Australia?
yeah, I came
Australia,
back.
That's how you've got it.
I
now.
came back here when I was 14 and like the internet was just kicking off in terms of like consuming media. Like torrents were becoming a thing. And I'm not proud of it, but I'm also a musician who gets paid fuck all for anything. So whatever. I live that life.
Yeah. People are torrenting you now.
Apparently
That's the
it's
circle.
back in.
Yeah, people are torrenting you.
I downloaded it because it was on a list. Like I'm not that cool.
Yeah.
Like I just
100
Googled
best
things.
movies for teenagers to pirate.
Yeah. Like one of the top 10 coolest dude movies to be a cool dude, because it's like very like it's not bro-y,
But it's got that staccato rhythm that I think is very exciting for teenagers, where you go, I can hear there's good dialogue. Like I can hear and I can feel that the dialogue is cool.
and I have no fucking clue what's happening. I have
Yes.
no idea what's happening.
It's all about bonds. It's
I
all about
reckon-
sales
I
and bonds. I'm like,
genuinely-
I don't know what they are.
I shit you not. I reckon I watched it maybe 3 times before I realized like what they were and what they were doing, and that they were selling. I pause now because I'm not even sure. They're selling land.
I actually don't know because I'm assuming it's land, but it's like what you just call people on the phone and go, "Would you like to buy this land and become and
I
earn
don't
something
have a
from
clue.
it?" No, I don't.
But I didn't
know.
even know that they. I didn't even really get that they were selling stuff at first. Like I knew they were like trying to do some sort of deal. And to this now, I'm kind of freaking out because I'm like, maybe we're wrong, and they're not selling land.
Or is it stocks? I actually don't know. It could be stocks. It's been a long time since I've seen this, and
So he freaks.
no, it's real estate. They're real estate, so
It's
land.
plots of land.
I guess it's plots of land.
I think it's plots of land because like so.
They got leads. It's called the leads. You got the Glengarry leads.
And Glengarry is what's a I don't a Glen is like
I thought it was
a body of
guy's
water or
name.
something.
I thought it was like we got Glengarry. Like that's the
So we got Glenn, we got Gary, we got Glenn too, and
and we got
Ross.
Ross. We got
I don't
Ross.
think so. I think it's a plot of land.
Can I tell you my experience with this? When I was a teenager, I was studying drama in high school, and I was like, I love this monologue. I'm going to perform this monologue. And so I did the monologue. I still probably know it off by heart.
The brass
Alec
balls
Baldwin,
one?
The brass
Okay.
balls. I think I could launch into it any second.
Can we can I have a little bit?
Let me tell you down here. Put that coffee down. Coffee is for closers only. You think I'm fucking with you? Oh, believe me, I am not fucking with you. I'm here from downtown. I'm here from Mitch and Murray. And I'm here on a mission of mercy. Wow.
That's real powerful stuff.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
You didn't hesitate.
I still got it.
They added that for the film.
And I can't imagine without it. I think it's that's why I've never seen the play, because I can't imagine what it's like.
But it's also really, when you realize that, you're like, oh yeah, Alec Baldwin shows up for 2 seconds and then disappears forever.
Yeah.
And you're like, that's pretty weird in hindsight.
Yeah. And
But it's so good.
it's one of those great one scene stiller moments. Like truly, it's the version, the all-time epitome of that.
I'm glad you liked this film, because I was really worried coming in here that this was one of those like bro films.
I'm like, this
that,
guy's a
like,
douchey bro picking out
Well-
Glengarry. But guess what? I was a douchey bro at one point in time. So if it was,
But
I feel it too.
Do we think that like other people would think it's a pretty cheesy, stupid movie about boys being boys?
Gosh, I hope not.
I feel like maybe it is, but they get away with it. Again, I'm going to come back to charisma. The performances, like you cannot argue with every single performance there. It's like unstoppable Riz. They should have called it Unstoppable Riz.
That's it. Even the tagline of the movie, David Mamet's Unstoppable Riz in Glengarry Glen Ross.
I just want to listen to Al Pacino be Al Pacino all day. Everyone talks about that Alec Baldwin thing. So like for people who haven't seen it, Alec Baldwin comes in from the higher ups in their company.
He comes from downtown. He's here from Mitch and Murray. He's here on a mission of mercy.
I'll go into Mitch and Murray. But he's there to kick them up the ass and get them to sell the properties or whatever. And they do a competition, and the whole movie is the competition essentially. But everyone quotes that monologue, right?
These are the Glengarry leads.
But for me, it's the Al Pacino. It's kind of a monologue. It's a very short monologue when Kevin Spacey fucks up and tells Jonathan Pryce that he's put his check through and gotten rid of all of his money, which I think is what happened. Again, it took me like 3 or 4 times to watch it to be like, what's happening here? Al Pacino's like really angry. But the point is, Al Pacino's really angry at Kevin Spacey. And I'm pretty sure the first time, language warning, I've ever heard the word cunt.
Whoa. Was Al
film.
Pacino saying it?
Yeah. He's like, so he turns around as soon as Jonathan Pryce leaves, and he goes to Kevin Spacey. Where did you learn your trade, you stupid fucking cunt? And I'm like, oh my God. It's like that this is why I'm worried it's like a bro-y movie, because like that's not cool. Like that's not something you quote in front of people and they're like, oh, Glengarry, fuck, you're a cunt. But like as a teen boy, I'm like, oh shit. They're doing this in movies. They were doing this in movies back then in the 90s. Like it's and he just says it twice. And then at the end, he goes on this rant. Where did you learn your trade? The first thing you learn about, you don't make the call when you don't know, blah, blah, blah. All this stuff. I'm like, I don't know what he's talking about because I don't know what's going on in this movie. And then he turns around to go into this meeting and leaves Kevin Spacey in the room. And he just goes, you fucking child. I'm like, him calling him a child was just as powerful as him calling him a cunt.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that is the real power of Al Pacino.
Wow.
You're a child. And I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, Al. It's those performances. Like, I don't need to know anything about what's going on in this film. It's like I'm in a fantasy land on a magic carpet powered by Al Pacino saying random stuff and being angry. It's magic. To me, a boy.
Well, to me, a boy, when I saw this movie, I'll probably go back into that kind of douchey bro area.
Yeah.
Because I had to do a monologue. I had to do this as like my monologue for drama. And I was like, well, I need to make this socially relevant. And I'm a boy online reading about this. I'm assuming this is about stocks and all that stuff. And the GFC was happening. So I'm like, okay, let's make it about the GFC, this thing. So I'm not rewriting the text at all. My reinterpretation of this monologue, it's so embarrassing to think about. Like I get, people said the teacher said it was good at the time, but it's so embarrassing. It's so embarrassing.
My mommy liked it.
Literally, that's how I feel like my mom loved it.
So
this was
what did you do?
I played this. God, I'm so embarrassed. I can feel
Say it.
I can feel tears in the bottom of my eyes. Like this is how embarrassing it was. I reinterpreted it as the character Blake is the character's name, as now he's a delusional homeless guy in Central Park, just reliving his time of like in the park screaming at people of what he would be doing when he was on top of the world telling people about the leads.
Oh, you took some liberties.
It's so embarrassing because I was like, I'm not going to change the words, but I have to reinterpret it somehow. You're meant to do that. And I was like, I don't like, it's like when they go, oh yeah, we're doing Macbeth, but they're gangsters. I go, why did I do that? It's so lame. I
thought you were going to be like, I just changed it to Bitcoin.
No, Bitcoin didn't exist. It was Bitcoin was a freaking, a dimple in my eye at that time. But this is, the GFC was happening. I'm watching like fucking, what's that guy's name? Kramer? Not from Seinfeld, but that guy that used to scream about stocks on TV?
Jim Cramer.
Yeah. I'm like, okay, let's inject Jim Cramer into this. And I think about it, and I was 17 and go, that's intelligent. When I look about it, I go, that's so lame. You're so lame for doing this.
There's nothing we will
already
do that is worse than what we did when we said that's intelligent as a
exactly.
teenager, because it's not.
And already it's lame, a 17-year-old boy wearing a suit. If I did this sincerely, like a pimply 17-year-old boy going like, is like, coffees for closers only. That's lame as well. I'm wearing a bad suit my grandpa used to own, going like, coffees for closers only. Like if I was doing it serious, every version of this sucks. And in my head, I'm like, oh, I'm so cool.
Coffee down.
Yeah. Are they all here? I'm going to start anyway.
But
just
that's
going
the, like,
into it.
that's the thing. It is a bit cringy in retrospect. Like the film is like very testosterone heavy, and it is all men, and it is all. But I think in hindsight, I've come away from being like, whoa, that's badass, into like, that's really good acting.
It's really good acting.
Really good actors.
That was great. That was great.
And I've gone from like being obsessed with Al Pacino and Alec Baldwin to like appreciating like Ed Harris and Jack Lemmon.
And we got Alan Arkin.
And Alan Arkin.
They're
like,
all doing saying, oh, I love those leads. I want those leads too.
It's different energies, right? Like it's not all pedal to the metal.
Yeah.
Like those are the parts that you quote, and like coffee is for closers still comes up in like my Instagram chats and stuff. It did,
of course,
like 2 days ago. I was like, ha! But like you forget the quiet moments where Jack Lemmon is like the most pathetic man in the world, and there's like a tragedy to it that still I think tracks as a objectively good film. Forget about all the bro stuff, you know?
Oh yeah.
But like it's so funny to me that as a not a kid, but as a young boy, I would connect with a film that has no action, is all dialogue, is like not really quick paced necessarily, and it's on paper a really hard sell to people that age.
That's what it's about, the hard sell.
Well, exactly. Yeah, it's the hardest sell of all if you watch the film. But like it's boring. On paper, it's boring. I don't want to watch that. To this day, I don't want to watch a film about salesmen calling people up on the phone. That's the movie.
That's the movie.
That's the movie. Like not much else happens. But it like again, it's just we're riding on the shoulders of acting giants.
Oh yeah, and it's comfy up there.
It's beautiful. Go watch it. This one.
This is the recommendation.
As many times as you like.
Watch
You're gonna
it.
have to watch it 5 or 6 times to understand what's going on.
And to learn all the lines. Then you learn all the lines. That's it.
All you need, in my opinion, all you need is where did you learn your trade, you stupid fucking
And
cunt?
you should be learning about early 1990s New York real estate law. That's maybe read that going in.
Staff pick.
But we have come to this time of the show right now for my job to kick in the staff pick recommendation from me unto you based on your taste, based on our conversation. And I think the thing that struck me the hardest in our chat was how much you wanted like that kind of self-knowing involvement, something that doesn't take itself very seriously. And immediately when you pulled up They Clone Tyrone, there was this movie that kind of like popped into my head. And of course, I also know that you're half Filipino. And I want to give you this film that came into my life a couple of years ago because they played it at the freaking Art Gallery of New South Wales.
Ooh la
and
la.
it is such a fun time, this film. It's a film called They Call Her Cleopatra Wong.
Action.
And this is a martial arts film from 1978. Pure like exploitation cinema,
Unreal.
like in its purest form. And it kind of takes itself not so seriously in the same way that blaxploitation films would be like kind of like playing in that realm of humor of that time. I'm going to pass you over this. You can have like little looks at it while I tell you a little bit about it.
Oh my God.
Let me tell you about this.
I wasn't expecting a nun's habit.
There's lots of nuns' habits in it. They call it Cleopatra Wong. It's cool, fun, and charming. A delightful expression of low budgets, Philippine martial arts action that never takes itself seriously. And let me give you the tagline for this film. She purrs like a kitten and makes love like a siren. This side of the Pacific, she's the meanest, deadliest, sexiest secret agent ever. And this film kind of first came on my radar when it was mentioned in one of my favorite documentaries of recent times called Shirkers, which is a Singaporean film, as an example of a film made in Singapore, because they didn't really have a film industry then, and neither did Philippines either. And it's also called Female Big Boss at the time. It's directed by a guy called Bobby A. Suarez. And basically what it is, it features the first adventures of Asian Interpol agent Cleopatra Wong, starring Mary Lee in the title role. And it's kind of playing on the successes of those Hong Kong martial arts films of the 1970s, your Bruce Lee type stuff, but more in the vein of like Foxy Brown and Cleopatra Jones, like those kind of blaxploitation films. And also, reportedly, a big influence on a famous film that also plays in exploitational feelings is Quentin Tarantino's Kill Bill.
Of course.
Big influence on that.
I'm looking at the poster, right? And like the first thing I clock, which like to me is not a red flag, but like a flag, is the use of like the very cliche Chinese font,
But only
only
on
on
word.
the Wong. And I don't think it makes me hesitant, but it just kind of really sets the tone for what kind of film this would be, and kind of reminds me that, yeah, Western cinema has like a lot of cliches and a lot of like murky race stuff that's not great. But I kind of often forget that like the Filipino industry would also have their equivalent of that stuff, and they're not above using these dicey, touchstones.
But also, that probably might be how it was sold in the West, like how it was like sold overseas.
Yeah, maybe. Well, it does say Filipino exploitation madness.
It is madness.
I'm obsessed with the idea of Filipino art. I think it's really unique in that it's a true melting pot, because the Philippines was colonized by the Spanish. They were freed, liberated by the Americans, and there's this real kind of mix and conflict of those cultures to this day, and there's this like art scene that is like really insulated, that is like purely unique, but also draws upon the wildest Western influences.
Set of
as well.
influences,
Yeah,
just pulling them in.
And it's done in a way that no other Southeast Asian country can really do, or I mean, a lot of others can't do, because that is true to their experience, and that is true to what people, growing up in Manila would have experienced. There were Americans everywhere. There were Spanish people everywhere, and it really comes up with super weird stuff like this.
Brother,
that you can't
I think
get anywhere
you're
else.
primed for this. Exactly what you said is what this movie is, what it breathes, and the way that it kind of like communicates and feels. It's all of that in like the most pure exploitational way. It never takes itself seriously. It's so fun, so funny throughout as well. My final warning to you around this film is, and even me telling you this, you will never be prepared for how long it truly is. So much of this runtime is dedicated to one sequence where they're like infiltrating a base, and one by one they climb up a rope, like they scale a building, and it's maybe 10 minutes. And it's like there's nothing, and it's you see them one by one. You kind of have the expectation to go, oh, maybe it's to set up that it's like a heist film where not everything goes to plan. Nope, they all successfully scale the building one at a time. It's very special, very very special.
I think I will enjoy it. A part of me has more passion for bad movies than good movies. Like I would be quicker to jump at watching a terrible movie than a good one at this stage, because it makes me feel.
This strikes that exact balance somewhere in there.
It's like, and then by the end of it, you're like,
balance.
actually, it's probably a good movie. They've been climbing that rope for a long time.
I think it's a really good. I had a great. I mean, play the freaking art gallery, and there's 2 sequels as well that were filmed in Philippines. Really fantastic. It's so fun. Like, I think you really dig this. Really dig this.
It's the Filipino spirit. There's like another. I don't know why, but like the Filipino spirit is so much more fun and like joking and doesn't take things seriously, and that translates to their art so much more than anything I've ever seen. Like it's not taking the piss, it's not being facetious, it's like a genuine joking nature. You know, it's like that somewhere in the middle where it's like, what's going on? Why are we all smiling? I don't know, it's just fun.
Well, thank you so much for jumping in, Novak. I've had such a great time freaking hanging out with you, talking about some great films, some sad films, some bummers, and then we got some pure expressions of joy, the golden age of the internet in there as well.
Just goes to show, you know, we really run the gamut of emotions when we watch film. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing.
It's powerful. It's power incarnate.
We really answered to the question as to why the hell would anyone make a foovie?
A foovie.
Movie.
We've got a foovie. That's a film and a movie combined. And
We did it. We solved it.
Cleopatra Wong probably is a foovie. Like it's a film. It's also a movie.
My favorite foovie.
It's one of the great foovies. Is there anything you'd like to plug? I know you've got a new single, Manila, out at the moment.
Oh, yeah, we're in a
I'm
band.
freaking loving it. I love this single.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
We released another one, a slow jam called Heavyweight. We got another one that's about to come out, How Dare You Fall in Love in the City. It's a very big mouthful. Yeah.
Which city do you picture?
I treat it as a
Sheffield?
companion to Manila. So
Yeah.
it's like this one's about Sydney. That
Okay,
one was about
wow.
Manila. But you know, I'm a big believer of it's about whatever the person listening to it thinks it's about.
I'm going to imagine decaying Sheffield when I listen to that.
There you go. Yeah,
I
imagine.
dare not fall in love there.
Watch Threads when our album comes out later this year.
Yeah.
Just put Threads on and feel all the emotions that come up.
I couldn't have said it more powerfully myself, and
Yeah.
I dare not try.
Yeah, we're also touring with Spiderbait in August,
hell yeah.
September, and then we got shows of our own in October. It's going to be great.
So hard to cram for me.
I will, which is Mark backwards, by the way.
Oh, when everyone finds that out, that's a powerful part of life.
I'm only
as a
like
young
2 weeks
Australian
into this revelation, and I'm like, I don't know what to do with myself.
Wow.
It's crazy.
Do you call him Mark or do you call him Cram when you see him?
I haven't met him yet.
Oh, wow. What are you going to say?
I'll be like, did you know that that's your name backwards? Bro, like serendipitous.
You do that on
Hello.
purpose, man?
Hello. What's your favorite foovie?
The last video store.
So that was our chat with David Novak from Polish Club. And let me tell you this, the new single, How Dare You Fall in Love in This City, is available wherever you legally listen to music. And the tour is kicking off this October for their new album, Heavyweight Heart. You can buy tickets right now. They are in the show notes. So click on through, purchase tickets, see them in a city near you. That is Polish Club. They fucking rock, dude. Manila, that is my song of the winter, which is the season we are in currently. And I've been rocking out to it, dude. Every dang day. Well, that sounds crazy, but it is in my playlist. It's in my rotation right now. So check it out. Thank you to Novak for joining me on the show. And let me tell you where you can find his films. They Clone Tyrone, the sci-fi, blaxploitation, comedy, pastiche riff is on Netflix. Highly recommend it. It's so much fun. Threads is available to watch on the Criterion channel, and there's that new Blu-ray that I have that bummed me the hell out. But it's a huge recommendation if you want to feel that way or just experience it. Glengarry Glen Ross is on SBS On Demand and Stan. And Cleopatra Wong, my recommendation. I mean, I saw it at the Art Gallery a couple of years ago in a nice new-ish restoration. So there will be chances to find it. It will come to you, I think. But otherwise, you may need to track it down. I know there's a VHS rip floating around there. But definitely check out Cleopatra Wong. You'll have a good time. And a huge thank you from me unto you, the Return Shoot Rats, for tuning in to another episode of The Last Video Store, baby. I want to give you my services too. If you give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, leave us a comment on YouTube or our socials asking for a bespoke customized recommendation based on your taste as well, I'm going to provide it to you right now. We've got one coming in from a dear listener. I'm going to bring in producer Alex to read it to me right now. Okay, Alex, who do we have? jumping into the last video store for a recommendation.
All right, today we have a review from Hutty Boy.
Wow, Hutty. They are a hive and scum and villainy. They are the Hutties, the people of the Star Wars. Okay, let's just keep going.
Okay. Oh, it's Star Wars?
Yes, it's a Star Wars reference.
Should have known.
Yes. Jabba and his friends.
It is titled The Greek God of the Pod.
Okay, that might be about me.
I think that's about you.
Mm-hmm.
Alexi is the king of podcasting. Wow. If you haven't listened to all the stuff he's ever done, what are you doing with your life? !
Wow, good question.
Emphatic.
Thank you, Hutty.
I would love a staff pick. Here's my combo. Office Space.
Oh, I love Office Space.
Whiplash.
Ooh.
Adore Whiplash. The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent.
Oh, Nicolas Cage as Nick Cage, basically playing a version of himself. Let us go kind of in that direction. And I'll give you another kind of like satirical comedy. This is a Hollywood comedy. That I was kind of obsessed with for a while when it came out. It was like a film that I was reading about when I was a teenager, knowing that it was going to happen. It came out at the video store that I worked at. It stars Robert De Niro. It's called What Just Happened. Robert De Niro plays a producer based on Art Linson, famous Hollywood producer, interesting guy, and it's based on like his memoir. And in it, you got Bruce Willis playing himself. You got Sean Penn playing himself as well. It's directed by Barry Levinson, and I think it's pretty cool and funny and weird and not really known or talked about. So I'm gonna give that as a recommendation. It's called What Just Happened, and I might watch it again myself. So Huddy, if you're watching it, I'm going to be watching with you in spirit. If you want your own customized bespoke recommendation, do like what Huddy did and give us a 5-star review, and I'll come back to you at the end of the show for a recommendation from me unto you. Until next time, thank you, and I'll see you at the movies, which is my favorite place to be. I love to go see movies. I see one almost every single week in the cinema and every single day at home.
It's true.
It's true.
It's very true.
It's very true.